Hey kids, it's that time of the year again when ghosts and goblins run wild in the street. It's Halloween time and MRI is your one-stop shop for mask, costume, and supplies. Just see our latest shipment of masks. We have the devil, the skull, the witch, the werewolf, the spider face, the creepy beat, the mummy, the ghoul, the monster, the male vampire, the female vampire, and the graveyard devil. We also have the goof, the saber-toothed spaceman, the goonie, the pirate, the clown, the ghost, and the slutty blonde. We also have a large assortment of lifelike heads. And be sure to try out our mask of the nation. We have the French, the Italian, the Chinese, the Indian, the Yankee, the Dutch, the Irishman. And also, if you're really trying to scare them this year, try our bestseller, the Jew. Send a check on money or the Northern Alliance or Southern Alliance.
It's go time. Let's rock.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Mystery Ranch International. We are shooting in the underground bunker, Bunker 322, call sign Camelot. Coming to you, happy to be here. Got a fun one to come at you with. Most people know, or probably have heard, I believe he even tried to become the Libertarian candidate for president this last election. McAfee, what's his first name?
John McAfee.
John McAfee. And as of late, we've come to find out he's been in some crazy stuff. We're pretty much just going to talk about his time, the end of his time in Belize till when he's moved into, Lexington, Tennessee?
Yeah, he'd heard that me and you had set up shop in the Northern Alliance and the Southern Alliance, and he wanted to move a little bit closer to us, I believe, or so.
Probably so. He's had some crazy accusations hurled at him when he was down in Belize, and then he was accused of murder, and then fled to what's on the border? Guatemala down there, and then some crazy stuff. Accused of killing his neighbor and everything. But anyway,
Part of research last night, we watched The Gringo on Netflix, and it was awesome. It was pretty interesting. It had some inflammatory accusations definitely thrown at his way. But until you get into court of law. But if they are true,
he hasn't been charged with anything, so we're going to, we think he cracks us up, and we think he's probably a pretty fun fella.
Yeah.
So, Mr. McAfee, if you're watching, we could use a few more producers. So, anyway, let's. We're going to read a Newsweek article from November 23rd, 2017. Let's see here. In the early hours of September 4th, Alex Handrick woke up in his basement bedroom to the sound of gunfire. Having served in the Army for 8 years, the private security guard recognized the noise immediately, realizing the shots were coming from the rooms above him. Handrick, 28, grabbed his assault rifle and rushed upstairs.
Now, are we in a combat zone here, Michael, or where are we at?
We're in Lexington, Tennessee at this point. So he ran upstairs, there naked, except for his ammo belt, was 71-year-old tech tycoon and former fugitive John McAfee. Spraying bullets into the wall and ceiling of the living room, seeing Hendrick, he stopped firing. "There's an intruder," he said. Janice McAfee, who's 34, John's wife of nearly 5 years, recalled that the couple were doing it at their home in Lexington, Tennessee that night when they were interrupted by their dogs barking. So there were...
Hey, if they could bottle up, you'll come to find out, if they could bottle up what's in old Johnny boy, they wouldn't need Viagra no more.
So while he was doggy style, he heard doggies barking.
Oh my goodness. He thought he heard movement in the crawl space under our bedroom and in the attic.
Where are the security guards? You think if I just sprayed down there, everybody would be okay?
He then fired his guns into both areas, just to make sure.
It could have been over here, could have been over here. We're just...
She said later in a statement to the FBI, obtained by Newsweek, the incident marks only the latest twist in a 5-year saga for the cybersecurity pioneer, whose eponymous antivirus software made him a household name in the 1990s. I think everybody has heard of John McAfee.
Antivirus.
Yeah.
At least back in MS-DOS days and the dial-up internet, you'd be
even today. It's
I guess it is. He made a lot of money and sold out his part many years ago for quite a bit of loot.
And it's still banging though.
But I just remember it.
So here he gets into it right now, and when he sold the company for a reported $100 million, he became a very rich man. But in the years since, McAfee has more often been associated with scandal. Not least when, in 2012, he was caught up in an investigation of the murder of his neighbor in Belize, the Central American country where he had moved 4 years earlier. McAfee denies any involvement in the murder and instead claims it was part of an underworld plot that involves government corruption at the highest levels.
Governments aren't corrupt.
No.
That was sarcasm.
It involves the government corruption, drug cartels, pimps, prostitutes, and his own paranoia, and even his wife. It's a complicated morass of a spider web, he tells Newsweek. I'm the fly,
Can't make a hoe a
and the
housewife.
spider has more than 8 legs, I'll tell you that. That's a quote. When Hendrick and his security team searched the house on the night of September 4th, they found no evidence of an intruder. But McAfee did glean something from the scare. He had always feared that his wife was involved in the plot against him. Now he would find out that his fears were well-founded.
All right. So Mr. McAfee met Janice, his wife, the night after he fled Belize, in a culmination of a bitter and violent dispute with the local government after his compound was raided by the authorities, who suspected he was running a meth lab. He was not. That a government official we saw interviewed last night said it was some sort of white substance that they thought was either cocaine or meth, but tested to be neither. So
He got shook. I think he got shook down on a lot of that stuff in South America.
because he was working on some other things
He was
in the lab, trying to come up. They were trying to come up with some kind of new antibiotics, and they were taking stuff from the jungles, trying to come up with natural remedies and things like that. But he was suspected of running a meth lab. They never proved that, never found that. But McAfee claims he hacked into the government records and documented what he claimed was evidence of massive state corruption, which is most governments, in our opinion. A spokesperson for the Belize government denies that its computer systems were breached by McAfee during this time. The claim is absolutely false, the person tells Newsweek. Then in November 2012, McAfee was named a person of interest in the investigation of the murder of his neighbor, Gregory Fall. In an audacious escape, McAfee traveled by boat to Guatemala, where he was arrested for illegally entering the country. So once he gets arrested, he fakes a heart attack to avoid extradition back to Belize to buy time for his lawyers to file an appeal, allowing him to eventually return to the
And it's
US.
beautiful footage because there's news cameras all over the place watching this.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's a good actor.
He's awesome.
So rather than be taken back to Belize where he knows he's shook down and going to be a dead man, he fakes a heart attack where since there's cameras everywhere, he's got to go to the hospital, which buys him some time. The night after he returned, December 14th, 2012, he met Janice Dyson, who was working as a prostitute in South Beach, Florida. It's amazing. So he comes right back to Florida. One of the first people he meets, a prostitute. McAfee said he initially turned her down when she approached him outside of a cafe. I ain't loving these hoes, girl. Go on. But I guess she was persistent.
Pimping ain't easy, but somebody gotta do it.
McAfee, gotta do it.
Somebody gotta do it.
So he turned her down when she approached him outside a cafe. But the pair ended up spending the night together. She was persistent. She didn't know McAfee was rich or infamous, but her pimp, Del Maria Kamani Crutchfield. What's his street name there?
Suave.
Oh, Suave. He knew who he was. He intended to rob him. Crutchfield asked Janice to provide information about where McAfee was staying, but she refused. Janice and McAfee met again and eventually began a relationship. They married in 2013, but the pretty woman romance did not last long. After a row, she left their apartment to stay in a hotel in Portland, Oregon.
That's a long way
That's a
away.
long way from Florida. That's like directly 45 degrees.
Man, that's like 4,500 miles.
Oh, yeah.
That's a long...
We're down here in America.
Yeah.
Now we're up here in America. From one corner to the opposite corner. The first person she called was old Suave Crutchfield, who told her that people were looking for her husband.
Initially, Janice was asked for information about McAfee's movements. But later, when they had reconciled, she was blackmailed and ordered to leave.
Can't get away from them pimps.
Leave doors unlocked at their Lexington home, and even to drug his food in order to incapacitate him and make him easier to kidnap. It was only after the shooting up of his own house that McAfee confronted his wife about his fears that she was involved in some kind of plot.
Who's doing these drive-bys? Hope?
In Lexington.
No, this is in Oregon, isn't it?
No, it's
okay.
Yeah. She left Lexington and went to Oregon. I don't know what was up there. There's a lot of weird stuff with old Johnny. I mean, but this is what Newsweek is reporting. It was only after the shooting up of his own home in Lexington that McAfee confronted his wife about his fears and that she was involved in some kind of plot. She admitted that 2 days earlier, she had met Crutchfield, aka Suave, in a room at the Lexington Inn, some 3 miles from the couple's home. We'll have to go check it out. We'll have to do a man on the scene at Lexington Inn and go.
Think you'll do an interview?
I don't know. Me and Michael had plotted of just like going outside of his compound looking suspicious and getting captured and...
We're not getting uncaptured till you let us know anymore.
In several interviews with Newsweek, Janice claims that when she appeared to cooperate with the orders passed to her through Crutchfield, aka Suave, who could not be reached by Newsweek, she was simultaneously She was simultaneously trying to give McAfee hints of the plot. Even though I was cooperating, I was still trying to suggest to him, without telling him, to be careful.
Be careful, baby.
But I would get in the way. A lot of the attempts that happened in our home, I hindered them attempts from happening. I blocked them from happening because I'm in the house too. She
I got
says,
this poison, I got this. No. I ain't gonna do it.
because if I do my job, it always come back on me. I don't like the idea of going to prison or getting killed for somebody else's game. One of them attempts at kidnapping
Why
McAfee...
ain't gonna kill me if he needs me?
I know. One of them attempts at kidnapping McAfee, as told by Janice, included a plan to lace a meal she prepared with a chemical that would disable him. Though she says she was unable to follow through with it.
Can you do it, Johnny? I can't do it to you, baby. It's been one plot after another, McAfee says. My wife was in full cooperation with him, but at the same time trying to urge me not to do things that would lead me directly into a trap. Without telling me that she was cooperating to collect me, Janice probably has done more good than harm, because while she was cooperating, she at the same time kind of likes me, I guess.
I mean, you know.
I mean, they were married, so I guess she kind of likes me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, you can't expect a hoe to completely go back on her pimp.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, at least she's warning him. Sounds like to me she likes to drum. She's now between a rock and a hard place. She don't want to back a suave's hand.
She's now between a suave's hand and a hard place.
She still fears that there'll be harm to her family, even though the FBI and myself won't let that happen. She's done the unthinkable, which is rat on the underworld. She's told on some very powerful people.
Suave.
As far as McAfee's concerned, the entire plot against him dates back to his time in Belize. He has never released the information he claims to have hacked and stolen from the government in response to the raid on his compound. And he believes that powerful forces within the criminal underworld in Belize want to kidnap him to find out exactly what he knows. McAfee hopes that going public now will force those hounding him and his wife to back off.
McAfee likes the attention. After watching that documentary last night, Gringo, I'm almost positive he killed that dude down there. Yeah.
If they wanted to kill me, that would have been easy, he says. They can't kill me because they need me to sit down, remove my fingers or something until I tell them where this data is stored. Internal emails sent among senior members of Belize's Central Information Technology Office, seen by Newsweek, dismissed the idea that McAfee obtained any information of corruption as utter nonsense and the ravings of a sick mind.
Hold that thought right there. But you remember the inspector talking last night? John is accused of murdering his neighbor through just a dispute.
Well, his dogs were poisoned.
Yeah.
McAfee's dogs were poisoned. The other guy had been complaining about his dogs, so he supposedly hired one of his thugs that he had running as security down there in Belize to shoot the dude.
But on the technology thing, that inspector was talking about how that they only get 4% of convictions and murders because their DNA.
They don't even have fingerprint stuff, let alone
they're
DNA
just
stuff.
they're just now getting a fingerprint.
Yeah. They're very
technology
primitive down in Belize.
And lab specific.
They don't have any DNA stuff, so.
Yeah, DNA, it's out of the question. They're rubbing two sticks together, equivalent to what we're doing with our FBI forensics and labs and everything. But anyways.
All right, boys, it looked like a murder. Let's go to that.
But in saying that, their technological side of the government can't do too much. So
that's a good point.
That's what I was.
That's a good point. So if they don't even have DNA labs in Belize. I would say McAfee, who got rich from computer stuff, probably could get into their stuff.
McAfee, by all accounts, is pretty damn smart, technologically wise, and keeping himself relevant. So that's what I was just thinking, that that part of the story could be true, that he probably could have hacked into their mainframe.
Good point.
We've had dudes over in Britain sitting in their mama's apartment that are autistic hack into our DOD mainframes and national security agency mainframes. So they kind of hushed that story up, but you remember when that happened a couple years ago. Anyways, I don't know, it's just a little side thought.
That's a good thought, actually. So that primitive, why couldn't he? McAfee has often been portrayed in the media as paranoid. His association with this word may have begun after seemingly paranoid premonitions about computer viruses, which led to the creation of the world's first commercial antivirus software in a multi-billion-dollar company, but has since seeped into his personal life.
We were watching that documentary last night, and McAfee is at very least an eccentric dude, and it was showing some of his first, I guess there might have been magazine ads or something, but it was him dressed up as a doctor, and it had a
computer in the bed.
It had a computer in like a child's bed with like a teddy bear next to it, and he had a stethoscope.
He was taking care of the virus.
He was taking care of the virus.
It was pretty good marketing, I'd say.
Hey, he's pretty. We're right there. Entering the words John McAfee paranoid into the Google machine produces 139,000 results, with the top one a 2015 profile by Men's Journal labeling him the prophet of paranoia. Following the murder of Greg Fall, that's his neighbor in Belize, Prime Minister Dean Barrow called McAfee extremely paranoid and even bonkers. And in a series of several interviews with Newsweek, McAfee frequently used the word to describe his security setup. But he insists that in this instance, such measures are entirely necessary. I'm not paranoid, he says. Are you paranoid if they're really after you? That's a good question.
Maybe that's why they haven't got him yet.
I don't know. They are really after me. I do not believe I'm paranoid, but the press thinks so. I do not believe I'm paranoid, absolutely not. Somebody else who doesn't believe McAfee is simply a prisoner of his own paranoia is his former brother-in-law, Dwight Correll. The retired Washington State Police detective has known McAfee since the early 80s, but hadn't seen him in person for 15 years until he was invited to Lexington, Tennessee to investigate the kidnap claims. At first he was skeptical. I was starting to have some doubts, thinking John was just overly excited or paranoid, Correll says, speaking on the phone from McAfee's house. And then when I spoke to Janice and she told me about all that shit she's been going, I realized he's got every right in the world to be overly excited and paranoid. I mean, you got Suave on the loose out there. You know, Suave's out there somewhere in the shadows watching.
Still got time, pimp hose.
I can smell the baby powder around the corner. Keep that pimp hand hard. You know? After talking to Janice, I realized they're in the middle of a world shit.
Speaking with Newsweek over the phone, a member of McAfee's current security detail, who asked not to be named, I may need to get a different job later, if you guys don't mind.
I'll go by security guard number 4.
This security guard number 4 described the atmosphere as extremely tense all the time. Beyond the firearms, dogs and steel.
Hey, and John got a firearm on him.
He's had a firearm since the antivirus stuff, like
since the
86.
Let's say 86. Yeah.
I mean, probably before. So, and I just want to say that everybody's calling him paranoid. His paranoia made him rich with the antivirus stuff. So, I'm paranoid. I mean, I don't think paranoia is a bad thing. That's why they ain't got him. But okay, so he described the atmosphere as extremely tense. Beyond the firearms, dogs, and steel doors, McAfee's security measures include a tricked-out truck that features spotlights, sirens, a pneumatic bumper. The area surrounding his house has cameras, lights, and booby traps in the surrounding woods. Hi, John, we got parts out here. One of these booby traps went off again. I'd like to know what kind of booby traps in the surrounding woods. While he describes his bedroom as the most heavily armed bedroom in America.
Sweet. Make Charlton Heston blush.
It is a fortress, he says. For someone to take me alive, which they have to do, try doing that when someone's barricaded and shooting back. Ain't gonna happen. Remarkably, despite Janice admitting to her involvement in the plot to have McAfee kidnapped, the couple are still together. I love her, I can't help it. Janice claims she received threats to both herself and her family if she did not cooperate with Crutchfield and others involved. I am still with Janice. I have no intention of separating from her, McAfee says. That may be stupid, but the fact is she has come clean, number one. The fact that I understand it was difficult for her, and secondly, for the reason that if I separated from her now, then she's likely to go back to her pimp and plan things that I have no clue, no knowledge of, right?
John, I'd be saying so.
Keep your friends close and your hoes closer. McAfee claims that despite the revelations, he still loves Janice. For her part, however, she is reluctant to stay the same. Not love, she says, when asked what her feelings are for McAfee. Made me admiration. And this $1 million lifestyle ain't bad neither.
Yeah, I know. That don't hurt nothing.
Love is a weird word for me, so I don't use that. McAfee says his current circle of trust extends no further than Janice. Beyond Hendrick, he has a rotating team of private security guards, including 2 former Green Berets. But since the revelations about his wife, McAfee has been keeping a minimum distance of 15 feet from his security detail for the fear that one of them might have been turned.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got to y'all. In an email to Newsweek on November 12th, McAfee wrote, "I eat, sleep, and shower with a pistol in my hand." Well, let me tell you, Mr. McAfee, so does MRI. When I enter the main house from my bedroom, secured with a 10-gauge solid steel door, my 2 German Shepherds and 1 pit bull precede me. Moments before I emerge, I call my head of security and request that my detail be sitting in recliner chairs with their feet up, a vulnerable position since I'm standing and armed. It is not a fun situation.
We totally understand, John.
I've practiced and I can kill everybody in a reclined position in 4.6 seconds from where I'm standing.
McAfee said he is in regular contact with the FBI agent. Though when contacted by Newsweek, the agent refused to speak about the investigation or acknowledge that there was one ongoing. In an official statement, an FBI spokesperson said, "It is FBI policy to neither It is FBI policy to neither to confirm or to deny the existence of an investigation. But even when it comes to the FBI, McAfee says he does not trust them."
I don't either.
Why would I trust an FBI agents when they could be given $10 million just to stand wide of something? They won't have to do anything. Just not do anything. So I don't trust them.
Who knows who's got the swab already, you know?
I mean, you really don't know, Michael. Swap's out there somewhere in the shadows lurking.
Pimpin' ain't easy, but swab gotta do it. Swab gotta do it.
Oh my goodness. We'll have to go in the annals of...
I guess Swab is shooting for retirement with this one.
If I was a megalomaniac, I think I'd do it like John done it. You know? That's the way I feel about it.
Well, everybody, thank you for watching. We love you. Have a wonderful night. Please comment, rate, subscribe. Hit that like button like you mean it. And take her easy. Follow the money.
And the power.